The wind screamed across the white frozen world. Snow danced like angry spirits in the air. The sky was dark, with only 2 moons peeking through the clouds. It was always cold here, colder than death itself. In the middle of the storm, a small escape pod sat half buried in snow. Its metal body was cracked, smoke rising from one side. Inside the pod, a young alien girl named Lyra held her furry pet close. Her arms wrapped around him tightly, trying to keep him warm. The pet, a soft creature with big round eyes and silver fur, made a small sound. Lyra stroked his head gently, her eyes filled with tears. "Don't worry, Miki," she whispered. "It will be over soon." Her voice was weak, her lips turning blue. She had been stuck there for hours, maybe even a day. Time didn't matter anymore, only cold did, and fear. She had escaped the destruction of her ship. Everyone else was gone, her parents, her friends, her people, all taken by the monsters from the black sky, the void crawlers. She had screamed, cried, and begged when the escape pod ejected, but now she was just tired of running, tired of being afraid. Her fingers were numb. She could barely feel Mickey's heartbeat anymore. The power was almost gone. The pod's heater blinked red, then faded. Lyra looked at the window, covered in ice. She imagined a warm sun behind it, maybe green trees, a world where she could run barefoot and laugh again. But that world didn't exist for her, not anymore. She closed her eyes, her breath slowing. Miki made a soft whimper, as if asking her not to sleep. Lyra smiled sadly. "Sleep, little one," she said. "Let the cold take us together." But then bang, a loud sound shook the pod. Lyra opened her eyes, confused. Another bang, then a strange mechanical sound, like footsteps, heavy and strong, walking on the frozen ground. She held Miki tighter, heart pounding. Were the crawlers back? Had they found her again? She wanted to scream, but no voice came out. Then came a flash of light, bright and sharp, cutting through the window. She covered her eyes. The pod's door screeched and slowly opened. For a moment, she saw nothing but white mist. Then a figure stepped through, tall, metal-covered, glowing from the chest. It was not a crawler. It was something else. It was a human. Lyra had heard stories. Her teachers had said humans were dangerous, violent, selfish. But this one knelt beside her, removed his helmet. He had kind eyes and short brown hair. He looked shocked to see her. Then he gently reached out and touched her shoulder. "You're alive," he said softly. Lyra didn't understand the words, but she felt the warmth in them. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. Miki slowly crawled out of her arms and sniffed the human's glove. Then, to Lyra's surprise, licked it. The human laughed a little. "You've got a brave little friend," he said. He pulled something from his belt, a warm energy blanket. He wrapped it around her and Miki. Warmth flowed into her frozen bones. For the first time in hours, she felt heat. He lifted her gently and carried her out of the pod. She saw his ship, strong, white, and glowing with light. Inside, everything was warm, bright, and alive. He placed her on a soft seat and gave her a warm drink. She looked at him, eyes wide. "Who are you?" she asked in a soft, broken voice. He smiled. "I'm Captain Reed," he said. "And you're safe now." Lyra didn't know what to say. Tears filled her eyes again. But this time, not from pain or cold, but from something she had lost long ago, hope. As the ship lifted into the sky, away from the frozen death below, she hugged Miki once more, and for the first time in forever, she believed she might survive. She woke up to the sound of breathing, not her own. It was slow, steady, calm. The warmth around her felt like sunlight, though there was no sun here. Lyra blinked slowly, her eyes dry, her body still heavy. She wasn't in the escape pod anymore. She lay inside something strange, soft walls, soft lights, and no cold. Everything hummed gently, as if the room itself was alive. For a moment, she thought she had died and reached some peaceful place. Then she heard the voice, low and human. "She's awake," it said from behind a clear glass door. A man stepped in, the same man who had saved her. His helmet was gone now, his face clear, his eyes tired but kind. Lyra tried to move, but her body was weak. She looked down and saw Miki curled up on her lap, breathing peacefully. That made her heart relax for the first time in days. He was safe, and so was she. "You were lucky," the man said gently. "That pod of yours was ready to give up." Lyra stared at him, not understanding all the words, but his tone was soft, like a lullaby. He didn't sound like a soldier or a hunter. He placed something near her hand. A small glowing cube. It projected symbols she could read. A translator device. Lyra touched it, and it began to speak in her language. "You are safe now," it said in her tongue. "My name is Captain Reed. I'm from Earth." Earth. The name sounded distant, like a dream she once had. Her people spoke of Earth like a warning, but this human didn't seem like the stories. "You rescued me," she said slowly. Her voice dry. Reed nodded. "I heard a signal, weak but alive." "I had to check," he paused, then added, Did anyone else escape with you?" Lyra lowered her eyes. She remembered the fire, the screams, the crawling darkness. "No," she whispered, "only Miki and me." Reed's face tightened, but he said nothing for a moment. Outside the window, the white world still spun slowly. Ice storms still roared in the distance. But here inside, it felt like another planet. Warm, safe, human. Miki woke up and stretched, then climbed onto Reed's lap without fear. The human smiled and scratched behind the creature's ears. "He's friendly," Reed said. "Reminds me of a dog I once had." Lyra watched him, confused. "You keep animals like Miki on Earth?" she asked. Reed laughed softly. "Not like him, but close enough." Lyra almost smiled, but then she remembered. "The enemy, the ones who killed her people, the void crawlers. They will come," she said suddenly, her voice sharp. "They always follow the signal." Reed's eyes narrowed. "The crawlers?" he asked. "You've seen them?" Lyra nodded, her hands shaking. "They destroyed my home, my ship, my family." She looked up, eyes filled with fear. "If they hear your ship, they'll come for us." Reed stood, his face serious now. "I sent a message to my crew in orbit," he said. "They'll be here in 2 days." Lyra shook her head. "They'll find us long before that." Silence filled the room like fog. Reed turned and walked toward the control panel. His fingers danced over glowing buttons. "Then we don't wait," he said. "We find shelter. Somewhere safe, maybe underground." Lyra tried to sit up fully, her strength returning slowly. "There are ice caves near here," she said. "My people used them in old times." Reed looked back at her, a spark in his eyes. "Then you'll guide me," he said. "I saved you. Now you help save us both." Lyra nodded. For the first time in her life she trusted a human. Not because she had to, but because he trusted her first. Together, they prepared to leave. Outside, the storm was quieter now. Like the planet itself was watching, waiting for what would happen next. But far above, in the black sky, something else was watching too, and it was already moving toward them. In the silent dark of space, nothing breathed, but something moved, slow and ancient. It had no eyes, yet it could see everything. It had no ears, yet it could hear every sound across the stars. When Captain Reed sent the signal, it went out like a whisper into the night. Across systems, across moons, across empty ruins, and deep within a black nebula, a small machine blinked red. A single dot appeared on a screen made of bone and wires. The creature inside that machine opened its mouth, though it didn't need air. It tasted the signal, human technology, it thought. But something else was there too, the scent of her. She had escaped. She was still alive. And now it knew where. The void crawlers didn't forget. They didn't forgive. And they never left survivors. Back on the frozen world, Lyra and Reed packed supplies. The sky was clearing, but the wind still bit their skin like knives. Miki rode on Lyra's shoulder, wrapped in warm cloth. He made soft chirping sounds. Sensing something was wrong, Reed checked his scanner again, frowning. No word from orbit. He said. Lyra looked up, her voice soft. Maybe your message didn't reach. Reed shook his head. No, it reached, he said. I just hope it wasn't heard by the wrong ears. They began their walk across the frozen plain. Ice cracked under their boots, far in the distance. Strange towers of ice rose from the ground like broken fingers. This planet wasn't always dead, Lyra said, her eyes scanning the land. My people called it Ellerin, the Blue Refuge. Reed raised an eyebrow. Refuge from what? He asked. Lyra looked away. From the crawlers, she whispered. They reached a cliffside covered in frozen vines. Behind it, a narrow tunnel opened like a hidden mouth. Lyra placed her hand on a stone panel. It glowed faintly. Then the ice door slid open with a hiss inside. The cave was vast and glowing with blue light. Ancient markings danced on the walls, shifting slowly. The elders hid here long ago, she said. When the war first began, Reed looked around, amazed. This isn't just a cave, he sighed. It's a sanctuary. Lyra walked forward, her hand brushing against old carvings. Each one told a story of peace, of war, of betrayal. Reed followed, but his scanner suddenly beeped. A red pulse flashed on the screen, fast and sharp. Something's out there, he said. Lyra turned, fear returning to her face. They're coming, she whispered. They followed your signal. Reed pulled out a small defense drone and activated it. The device floated above them, scanning the cave's entrance. We need to keep moving, he said. If they find this place, it's over, Mickey growled, a low, unfamiliar sound. Even the pet felt the storm that was coming. Lyra and Reed rushed deeper into the caves. Their lights flickered against stone walls carved by hands long gone. Far behind them, at the frozen entrance, something moved, crawling across the ice, unseen. It left no footprints, only frost that cracked and hissed in its path. And above, the sky began to darken again. Not from clouds, but from ships. Black, insect-like, silent, the crawlers had arrived, and they would not leave until the girl and the human were dead. The air inside the cave was still, but not silent. It hummed, quietly, like a song buried under centuries of ice, as Lyra walked. Deeper, the glowing walls pulsed gently with each step she took. It was as if the cave could feel her, and it remembered her blood. Reed followed close behind, scanning the surroundings, but no machine could read what the walls were whispering. This place was older than maps, older than her people's fear. Lyra didn't know how she knew the path, but her feet moved like they remembered it. This is not a normal cave, Reed said quietly. Lyra nodded. It's a memory, she replied. My ancestors built it when the sky first burned. Above them, the storm howled like a warning. The cave's entrance had sealed itself with a thick wall of frost. The crawlers were outside now, crawling across the cliffs like shadows with teeth. But inside was something they feared. Mickey walked ahead, his fur glowing faintly from the cave's light. He stopped at a large chamber, and his ears twitched. Lyra and Reed entered the chamber, their eyes wide. A giant structure stood in the center, a ring of metal, cracked and frozen, but symbols along its edge blinked slowly. Still alive, what is it? Reed asked. Lyra stepped closer, her fingers brushing the surface. It's a portal, she whispered. A gate. Reed's eyes widened. Can it take us off this planet? Lyra shook her head. No, not like that. This was made to hide people, not move them. She pressed her hand against the ring. The symbols reacted, spinning like stars in a forgotten sky. A beam of blue light shot upward, revealing a hidden hallway behind the wall. Mickey barked once and rushed in. Lyra followed without fear. Reed hesitated, then ran after them. The hallway was long and curved, walls covered in crystal. Strange objects floated in the air. Tools, scrolls, glowing seeds. What is this place? Reed asked, almost whispering. A vault, Lyra said. They didn't just hide here. They left behind knowledge. But then, the hum of the cave changed. It became sharper, faster, warning them. Red light flashed from Reed's scanner. There. Breaking through, he said. The crawlers found the entrance. Lyra rushed toward a control panel shaped like a flower. She pressed the center, and giant stone doors began to close behind them. A loud crash echoed through the cave as the first crawlers slammed into the entrance. Reed drew his weapon and aimed at the dark hallway behind them. But nothing came through, not yet. The door sealed shut with a blast of cold air. They had time, minutes maybe, no more. We can't run forever, Reed said, breathing hard. Then we don't, Lyra said, her eyes glowing with something new strength. She turned to a round table in the center of the vault. It lit up as she touched it, revealing a map of the entire cave system. There, she pointed. That chamber, it holds the energy core. Reed leaned closer. Energy? He asked. A weapon, she said. But it needs someone with the blood to wake it. Miki climbed up the table, pawing at a blinking light. Lyra smiled for a second, then turned serious. If we reach it before they do, we might survive. Reed looked at her. You're not just a survivor, are you? He asked. You're the key. She nodded slowly. My people ran from the crawlers. She said, I won't run anymore. Behind them, the walls shook. The crawlers had entered the outer tunnels, and they were getting closer with every second. Lyra turned to sword the glowing path ahead. The ice reflected her face, scared but strong. She held Miki close, and Reed followed, 3 lives, walking into the heart of forgotten power. And behind them, death crawled on sharp legs, hungry for their end. The path ahead was glowing softly, but it was not from lights. It was from the walls themselves, as if the stone remembered who she was. And it welcomed her home. Lyra walked in silence, her steps slow, her hand brushed along the walls and symbols lit up where her fingers touched. Each pulse of light made the air warmer, like a heartbeat under the earth. Captain Reed watched quietly. Even Miki walked softly now, his ears perked, sensing something powerful. The deeper they went, the more the cave began to change. The ice faded, replaced by smooth black metal and glass. The air didn't feel cold anymore. It felt electric, like the place had been sleeping for 1,000 years, waiting for someone, and that someone had finally returned. They reached a large chamber shaped like a dome. In the center was a floating orb, surrounded by golden rings that moved slowly. Below it, a round platform shimmered with blue symbols. Lyra stepped onto the platform without thinking. Suddenly, the chamber came to life. Light spun above her, forming shapes, stars, planets, cells. A calm female voice echoed around the room, ancient and clear. Gene's signature accepted. It said, Welcome, descendant of the architects. Reed took a step back, stunned. Lyra, what is this? He asked. Lyra looked just as shocked. I don't know, she said, her voice trembling. I didn't know I was anything. The orb above began to lower slowly. It stopped just above her head and scanned her with beams of white light. Images appeared in the air. People who looked like Lyra. Their eyes were bright, their bodies glowing with light. They were the first builders of the sanctuary, the ones who had created these tunnels, the ones who had fought the crawlers first. You're part of them, Reed said, still staring. Your DNA. It's from the creators of this entire place. Lyra's knees shook. She had always thought she was just a child of survivors, a girl running from war. But now the truth stood before her. She was more than that. She was the key. The chamber began to shift, walls slid open, revealing ancient machines, weapons, armor, power cells. But one device stood taller than the rest. A massive crystal tower pulsing with red light. A console floated in front of it, locked, waiting. Miki ran to it and barked once, as if saying, This is it. Lyra approached the console and placed her hand on it. The red light turned to blue, and the tower shook. The female voice returned. Defense core activated, it said. One authorized user detected. Reed stepped beside her, his face serious. This might be our only chance, he he said. If this core powers weapons, we can fight the crawlers, maybe even destroy them. Lyra looked up at the floating images again. The faces of her ancestors stared back, silent. Proud, she took a breath. No more running, she said softly. No more hiding. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the dome. Red lights flashed. The crawlers had entered the inner tunnels. They were close, too close. The orb rose again and formed a shield over the chamber. The console lit up with controls. Reed quickly studied them. We can hold them off, he said, but only if you stay here and keep the system online. I can do that, Lyra said. Her voice was calm now. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was the last daughter of the first warriors, and now it was her turn to fight. Outside the dome, the walls shook. Screeches echoed through the tunnels. Sharp limbs crawled across stone. But inside, blue light glowed brighter, and the machine of war began to wake. Asterisk in the dark sea of space. Far above the frozen world, a ship waited. It was not built for peace. It was made of steel, fire, and anger. Its name was the Horizon, and it carried the weight of 2 lost colonies. Deep inside the ship, a young officer named Maya blinked at her screen. A message flashed in red, repeating over and over. Survivor found, requesting rescue. Void crawlers detected. She ran down the hall and slammed open the command door. Captain, she shouted, we have a signal from Reed, the ship's captain. An older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes stood without a word. Plot a course, she said calmly. Ready weapons. As the Horizon turned toward the icy planet, its engines roared like thunder, and the stars themselves seemed to step back. Below, in the caves, the ground was shaking. Dust fell from the ceiling as crawlers scratched against stone. Lyra stood by the energy core, her hands on glowing controls. Reed moved around the chamber, placing small shield drones in each corner. Miki paced near the entrance, growling low. The shield over the room flickered once, then held strong. Reed checked his scanner. They'll break through in minutes, he said. We have to hold them until the Horizon arrives. Lyra looked at him. Will they come in time? She asked. Reed gave a small smile. If the message got through, they'll come with everything. Suddenly, the ceiling cracked. 3 crawlers dropped down, screeching, their bodies covered in ice and claws. One charged forward, but hit the shield and burst into sparks. Reed raised his blaster and fired, hitting the next in the eye. Lyra focused, directing energy from the core into the shield system. More crawlers crawled down the walls, swarming. The shield started flickering again. Pressure building too fast. I can't hold it much longer, Lyra said, her voice shaking. Reed handed her a small power cell. Connect this. It'll buy us more time. She plugged it in, and the shield glowed bright blue. The crawlers screamed, stepping back, but not for long. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed through the cave. Not from inside, but from the sky. The Horizon had arrived from orbit. Fireballs rained down like falling stars. Targeted plasma blasts hit the cliffs, burning through enemy ships and burrows. Crawlers outside the cave screamed as their tunnels collapsed. Inside, the pressure lifted for a moment. Reed's communicator buzzed. This is Captain Solara of the Horizon, a voice said. We see you. Hold your position. Lyra stared up through the cave ceiling, as if she could see the sky. They came, she whispered. They really came. But Reed's eyes were on the scanner again. Too many left in the lower tunnels, he said. They're going to try one last push. He pulled out his last plasma charge. I'm going to meet them halfway, he said. Lyra grabbed his arm. No, she said. You'll die. Reed looked at her, his voice low. I don't plan to, he said. But if I don't slow them down, none of us make it out. She wanted to say more, but the look in his eyes stopped her. He was not just a soldier. He was hope made real. Reed stepped out of the shielded zone, blaster in one hand, charge in the other. He turned once to Lyra and gave her a thumbs up, then vanished into the tunnel. Lyra stared at the controls, her fingers shaking. She whispered a soft prayer, not to gods, but to the voices of her ancestors. "Let him come back," she said. "Please." The energy core pulsed again, and above them, the Horizon's soldiers prepared to land. The battle was not over yet, but humanity was here now. And this time, they were not running. Boom, boom, boom. That was all Lyra could hear, not from the enemy, not from the ship, but from her own chest. Her heartbeat, slow, heavy, full of fear and fire. She stood in the glowing chamber, her hands locked on the control core. Outside, the energy shield, the ground shook, the tunnel screamed. Captain Reed had not returned, and time was running out. Miki sat by the shield's edge, ears back, eyes fixed on the darkness. He hadn't moved since Reed disappeared into the tunnel. He waited like he believed Reed would come back. Lyra wished she could believe that too. The control panel flashed red, critical pressure building. Too much energy, not enough time. If the crawlers broke through now, it would be over, even with the Horizon in orbit. Even with soldiers landing above, without Reed, the line would break. She stared into the glass floor, watching tiny projections of Earth, a world she had never seen, a world full of oceans and sunlight and green, and people who fought for strangers, people like Reed. Then, from the far end of the tunnel, footsteps. Not crawling, not scraping, running fast and human. Lyra rushed to the shield. A figure appeared, limping, coughing. It was him. Captain Reed stumbled through the entrance, face cut, suit torn. But his eyes were still sharp, still alive. He collapsed beside her, breathing hard. "Slowed them down," he said. "But they're coming." He handed her a cracked device. "This plugs into the core," he said. "It'll burn them out, but we have to stay inside the chamber to trigger it." Lyra looked at the core, then back at him. "If we do that, we don't leave," she said. Reed nodded slowly. "I know." But before either of them could move, a voice crackled through the communicator. "This is Lieutenant Maya," it said. "Horizon troops are on site. We're cutting through the cave from above." Reed's eyes lit up. "Then we've got one shot," he said. "Hold this place long enough for them to break through." Lyra connected the device. The core glowed white, and the walls began to sing. The crawlers reached the final gate, claws slashing at the shield. Their screams echoed like dying stars. One broke through, tall, black, dripping with ice and hate. Reed fired, missing the head but hitting the chest. Another followed, and another. Lyra reached for a control and flooded the chamber with energy. The crawlers hissed in pain. Blinded by the light, Reed stood beside her, shoulder to shoulder. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They knew what this meant. Then, a crash above. Stone and metal falling. Ropes dropped through the ceiling. Human soldiers stormed in, weapons drawn. Lyra fell back. Reed caught her. One of the soldiers shouted, "We've got them. Cover fire now." Bullets and plasma filled the air. The crawlers screamed, turned, and began to fall. Some tried to run. But the Horizon's light followed, and where it touched, the dark burned away. Minutes passed like hours. Then silence. No more shaking, no more screams, just breathing, human breathing. Reed sat down beside the core, his body shaking. "You did." He said to Lyra. "No," she said softly, looking at the ceiling where stars peeked through. "We did." The Horizon's crew helped them onto the lift. Miki curled up in Lyra's arms, finally sleeping, as they rose toward the surface. The planet below began to glow, not with war, but with light, ancient and pure. A signal pulsed. From the core, not a cry for help, but a message of survival, of rebirth. Lyra looked at Reed, her voice quiet. "Do you think Earth would accept someone like me?" Reed smiled. "Earth needs someone like you." And as the ship flew toward the stars, a once lost girl from a frozen world closed her eyes and dreamed of oceans,